What actually is a workflow? The easiest way to think about it is just it's a sequence of tasks for a business process. Kind of like a roadmap that gets you from start to finish for any piece of work that you want to do. Now, a workflow is going to be just a piece of a process. So a process is going to be made up of a number of separate workflows. And why do we look at it like that? Well, within a workflow, you'd want to define the individual tasks that's going to help you complete the action. Then you're going to want to sequence those together so that you have a nice logical start to finish for that workflow. And then that allows you to connect those sequences, those workflows, into a bigger piece of the pie, or piece of the puzzle, which is the process. So here we have an example workflow. You can see we have a trigger. This is going to be the start of the workflow. It flows all the way through. We've got some automation identified. We've got some logic, whether it's a new client or not. We have some manual tasks, and that's going to make up an individual workflow. Now, this workflow is going to be just one piece of a process, but what is a process? A process helps you build separate systems. So now we kind of, from a hierarchy point of view, we've got a system at the top that's going to be our business system. That system is going to have one or more processes. And then within each process, it's going to have one or more workflows. So why do we need to even look at processes and a process as a whole? Well, a process really helps us standardize things within a business. That's going to give us a lot of consistency. We can also integrate these processes together and align now all these workflows into processes and processes into systems, and that's going to give us the ability to optimize. So at its core, this is the basis for optimization within a business. And when you look at optimizing systems, well, you have to know what processes are in there. And when you start to optimize those processes, you need to know what type of workflows are in there. And when you want to automate or leverage AI, you need to operate on the workflow level. So let me illustrate. I've jumped into Miro here, and it's going to help me visually kind of describe what we're looking at here. So at the top, we have our business systems, and each system may contain one or more, we'll call these a process. So we'll have one or more of those. We'll just make this nice and tidy here. Perfect. And then under each process, we have workflows. And we may have one or more workflows for each process. And this helps everything flow together. And then even under here, now we're going to have tasks. This would be tasks, or we'll call it a step. That's a little bit more explanatory. All right, and then we would have multiple steps within each workflow. And now we can start to build the pieces for determining which one, like this one in our imaginary setup here, might be automated, whereas this one might be manual, and we'd color those differently. But this allows us to break it down to a step-by-step basis, understand what workflow that fits in, understand what process it relates to, and understand what system it's going to support. If you try to optimize just by looking at the systems, all of these steps just get jumbled up. So if I bring these up here, we lose the granularity of saying, we don't actually know what's here. We're just looking at business systems and a bunch of steps, and we don't know how they fit or where they go into or who the stakeholders are or why we're optimizing this or what the outcomes are. So we definitely need to have these layers so that we can understand how everything fits together within the business to be most effective when we're creating optimizations and automation. Okay, let me jump back into the presentation. Okay, great. So why do we automate at the workflow level? Again, just to kind of reiterate, we've got the clarity and precision. Breaking it down into really clear tasks is going to help us understand how to do all this and why we're doing all of this. Identifying bottlenecks is a huge piece of the puzzle, where this really allows us to say, okay, we've got all these steps, we've got all these tasks, but why are we slowing down? Or why are there a bunch of errors? Or why is this happening? Typically, those are because the systems or the sequences have processes that have workflows that have steps that are just not set up correctly. So a lot of times this scales really quickly and is built in real time. And so being able to take a step back and analyze this at all levels can help immensely. Another piece is customization. So that's going to allow us to, or allow you to, customize the solutions and the automations necessary within the specific tasks or steps. And finally, scalability. If we don't know what we're looking at and we don't know how all the pieces fit together, it just doesn't scale, it doesn't work. You're gonna start building down one direction and then realize that is affecting other pieces of the puzzle that you didn't look at. So that's why we have to bring everything down to the workflow level so that we can go from there. Okay, and our final slide for this presentation, the key takeaways. So the workflows give us the foundation that we need. That's going to enable the ability to create standardization within the tasks. That's going to allow us to identify the opportunities for automation. And finally, that's going to elevate the ability for the business to grow a lot more efficiently.